In this video, I want to take a look at liability for damage and injuries caused by animals. We all have most of us have from time to time been threatened, for example, by dogs that perhaps are out of control. Some of us who live in the countryside may have suffered from animals, cattle breaking into our property, into our back garden and ploughing it up and pulling down fences and so on. So what is the legal position in relation to damage caused by animals and who is liable? Essentially, liability can arise in two ways in relation to animals. Under the general rules of tort, and tort is a civil wrong, or under specific pieces of legislation. For example, the Control of Dogs Act, which would be on the statute books. There are other acts, similar acts. Under the general rules of tort, there are four broad categories: negligence, nuisance, trespass, occupier's liability. These will be the four causes of action, or the four headings under which you might bring a claim if you suffered injury or damage as a result of animals breaking out onto your property or indeed attacking you. There are special rules, though, in relation to animals, and that is that the owner of a wild animal is strictly liable for any damage caused by that animal. This is called a scienter principle. Now, that relates to and applies to a wild animal. A tame domestic animal, on the other hand, the owner of it will only be held liable if he is aware of a mischievous propensity, as it's called, in the animal to do damage that ultimately is complained of. In other words, if a dog is well known to and has done so in the past, perhaps attacked people or bitten children or went for other dogs, perhaps when you're out walking your dog, well then this animal clearly has a mischievous propensity, and therefore the owner of that animal may be held liable for any damage caused. There's a particular piece of legislation on the Irish statute books then in relation to the control of dogs. That's the Control of Dogs Act 1992 and 1986. These set out the statutory principles, the statutory rules essentially, but one of the acts imposes strict liability for injuries caused by dogs to animals or persons. So if you have a dog and he causes damage or an injury to another dog or a person, then you as the owner will be held liable, and it is a question of strict liability. However, in order for strict liability to arise, an attack must have taken place, whereas in relation to strict liability for damage done to livestock, there's no need to show an attack took place. A person will still have a cause of action under the scienter principle if he can show that the dog had a mischievous propensity and the keeper of the dog, the owner of the dog, knew this. When a trespasser is injured by a dog, the ordinary rules of negligence apply. So this is not a situation of strict liability. That applies to trespassers. Cattle trespass then occurs when cattle stray from an owner's land onto another person's property. This will give rise to the owner being held liable. Cattle includes, for the purposes of the legislation, horses, sheep, goats, pigs, domestic fowl and deer. It appears from decided cases that the owner or the person who has possession and control of the animals is liable, not particularly the owner of the land or the cattle. So whoever has control of them. A farmer may have let out a field or a number of fields to somebody to graze cattle or whatever. Well, the person who has control of the cattle, the person who owns the cattle essentially in that situation, will be held liable. Defences for this cattle trespass situation would include an act of God, for example, perhaps a lightning strike or something that caused cattle to stampede, the plaintiff's own fault, contributory negligence, or the wrongful act of a third party. In other words, a third party may have left a gate open or hunted cattle into your property or something of that nature. Animals on the road situation, well, the normal rules of negligence will apply. They are that a person was negligent in the control of their animals, that the injury or damage was caused by their animal, that there was a causation between their animals going on the road and the damage complained of, that it was foreseeable that damage would occur, and so on. So that's the ordinary rules of negligence in relation to animals on the road, perhaps breaking out of a field or whatever. Horses in urban areas then has from time to time been an issue in Ireland and has been in the media quite a bit. The Control of Horses Act 1996 was introduced to deal with this problem of keeping horses in urban areas in particular. Hope you find this useful. My name is Terry Laurie. I have a solicitor's practice in Enfield in County Meath. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up down below, and you might be interested in subscribing to my YouTube channel. I deal with a lot of issues of various aspects of Irish law.